Sullivan here to speak today. I'm going to let his beautiful wife introduce him in a second. She's become a good friend of mine. The seniors, you were here when Kathy spoke last year, so today we've got her husband who's going to speak. I know that you guys are wonderful young adults and that you will give them your utmost respect. I don't doubt that at all for a second. So I'm going to introduce Kathy Meyer and Kathy Sullivan.
We go to a bunch of schools and usually the teacher's like, shh, keep it down, keep it down. I'm like, okay, a really good school system, yes, so congratulations, you know. So last year when I spoke, the hubby was supposed to come with me and chat at the same time, but he actually had to work and something was doing for work, and the irony, so Monday when you guys go to school, he told me not to tell you this because he's very shy. Oh, you're on vacation. You're not even going to be able to see him. He's doing your wireless network. He's working here Monday, doing your computer system. So he has a cable company. So if they don't work, feel free to complain to him later. Yeah. But I know I met Chris, and I probably told you guys this when I spoke. When Taylor and the juniors, I don't know, but my daughter passed away 7 years ago from underage drinking, and I don't know, did I get to talk to them yet?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so, yeah. So when Taylor passed away in October, I started going to that school in January, and Chris was in my audience. I spoke to the parents that night, and he was there because his sponsor had actually bought him. He had no kids. I ended up marrying someone with no kids. I don't know how that worked out so perfectly. My mom remarried when I was 10, and my wonderful stepdad got all 5 of us. So somehow I got Chris with no kids. But he went to that speech that night, and he was in the audience because his sponsor had bought him. I went to high school with his sponsor, so kind of like you guys all sitting next to each other now. Literally, one of my high school friends brought Chris to that speech because he was 5 weeks sober. Obviously, he wasn't in a great place, and Stephen said, hey, come with me, you're gonna listen to this mom. And I swear that Taylor handpicked him for me because 2 months later, we started hanging out, we went for walks. He decided to meet me in the morning, we went for our first walk, and I remember thinking, okay, he's shy is all I knew about him, he used to play for the Patriots. And I said, you know, I'm not gonna Google him, I'm gonna let him tell me about himself, all by himself. So we get there in the morning, and I'm there with a big pile of hair and walk out in my sweatpants, couldn't care less. And he came around, and we went for this 5-mile walk, and trust me, I'm not athletic. So we go for this walk, and the whole time I'm like, okay, so I heard you're shy. Tell me all about yourself, right? The man never shut up. He walked for 5 miles. Yeah, seriously, I'm like, oh my God, I thought you were shy, right? He walked for 5 miles, and he proceeded to tell me everything from young all the way to the Patriots, to then becoming a heroin addict, to becoming homeless, and at the 3/4 of the way into the walk, he puts a dip in his mouth. Don't dip, it's horrible. He puts a dip in his mouth and then proceeds to spit all over the road, all the way down this walk. And I thought, wow, it was very refreshing because he was so honest, like it was just the oddest thing. So then I looked at him, I said, okay, we're gonna walk tomorrow. And he said, yep, I'll see you in the morning. So then what he told me weeks later was that he was actually trying to get rid of me. He figured he told me everything awful, I wouldn't convince him to walk again. And I think he was trying to get rid of me day 1, but it didn't happen, so. Yeah. 2 years later, literally 2 years later, 1111 at 1 o'clock we got married. And and the kids would come up and hug me and he could see all the positive things on it. He said to me, you know what, Kat, I should be dead. Got a lot of anxiety, I can't imagine standing up in front of people, but I should be doing this. So I'm like, come on, let's go. So the next time I spoke about it with me, and I kind of had already planned it, and I'm like, go, go. And I shoved him out there, and he just chatted. He's a huge sweater, so he was sweating to death. He was dying. But he's wonderful, so he's going to chat with you first. And I'm going to try it.
It's good to be here. I am nothing like my wife at all. We're 100% opposite people. Some days I wish I was somewhat like her, but most days I don't. Because basically what you see is what you get. And she wakes up and she'll tell you when her daughter died, she had a choice either to go in a hole or she had to make a conscious choice to be happy. And that's her. She wakes up happy every day. Every day. It drives me crazy because I try. Like if I don't wake up, I wake up stressed. I have anxiety. A lot of what I talk about is anxiety. I fight depression. Like I get up out of bed like I'm late for something. I mutter, I storm around the house, I pack my lunch and I leave. Like I wish I could wake up like that. I don't wake up the way I wake up on purpose. Everyone's different. But we have nothing, we have a lot in common, but we're two different people. And I was trying to get rid of her on that first date. It's gross. Like when I put the chewing tobacco in, I thought that was the nail in the coffin. And, the whole thing backfired. But you know what? I wouldn't be up here if it wasn't for her. I wouldn't be up here if I didn't go through what I went through. I do not like public speaking. I don't like being up here right now. It's uncomfortable for me. Some people like it. Everyone's different. Some people like attention. Some like being the center of attention. Some don't. Some just want to fit in. Some just want to hide. I've always been the person that despised attention. I don't do well with compliments. I always had coaches that were tough on me, and I like when they're tough on me. I never took compliments well. I never felt like I fit in a crowd. A lot of the reason I think eventually I got addicted to things was my personality. I always had low self-esteem, insecure. Even though I had all this stuff good going on in my life at one point, the majority of my life, I always had people tell me how lucky I am. All my friends growing up in high school and when I was getting recruited in college and I got a scholarship in the NFL, people were like, you're so lucky. You get the perfect life. And I had all these internal issues, the anxiety, social anxiety. I didn't go out. And I still struggle with it. Like I don't go to, like if I'm in a supermarket and I see someone, no, I'm out, I leave. I'll leave my whole cart in the store, full of groceries and the poor person, but I still struggle with it, and a lot of, when I started taking the Percocets and drinking, it was to fit in. Even in high school, I didn't go to a ton of parties. When I did go, I felt like I had to have a drink to fit in. I wasn't one of those people that feel like they fit in everywhere. My wife fits in most places. I just feel like an outsider. And so a lot of what I talk about is anxiety. I don't come here and lecture you. I don't tell you not to do this and to obviously don't do drugs and don't drink, but I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, basically. I'm just trying to show where my good and bad decisions took me. I sat through a lot of these lectures, probably 20 of them, and never in a million years did I think I'd be standing up here. I always paid attention. I was always respectful, like you guys are being, and I listened to the guy, but in my head, I was being judgmental. I thought the guy up there was weak, maybe a loser, no self, I never could picture myself being someone in that position, because I always thought I had a strong will. I always thought I was a hard worker. When I put my mind to something, I could just do it. And, I still have my mind on. I always pass out my ring. I bring the ring just for the fact that my life changed when I got that ring. Literally, when I got that ring, my life went, it was going kind of up, but it went totally downhill. And I'll kind of get into that. But like I said, I sat through a lot of these, and I listened, and I was respectful, but, in my head, I was thinking the guy up there was kind of a loser. I'm not one to really judge people, but never in a million years did I think I'd be up here. And I can tell you, getting clean and staying clean is probably the hardest thing I ever did. It's a lot harder than getting that ring. I have a total new respect for the people in meetings, the people in Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. I still go to meetings every week. Probably the best people in the world you'll ever meet. Will do anything for anyone in this world. If I was in Pennsylvania and my car broke down at midnight, I could call someone from my meeting and they would immediately go out there. I know my family. My family loves me. My family's like, no, I'm not driving down there right now. You know what I mean? So I have a whole new respect for the people I used to judge. Because the image I had in my head? I didn't picture someone like me. I'm a drug addict. I'm in recovery, but this is what it looks like. It looks like my wife. It looks like you guys. It looks like doctors, lawyers, teachers, construction workers, you name it. But I had the image, I think the stereotype's getting a little better, but I didn't have it around me. I didn't have it in my family. I didn't have friends. I had that image I saw on TV growing up. I had the image of the homeless person, hadn't shaven, showered, missing teeth. I had like the total end result of addiction. And that's what I had in my head. I always said, I could never get there. And that's the end result, and I got there. And I got to that image I had in my head. And it's amazing, I got there pretty fast. And I'll talk a little more about that a little later, but for me, basically, I was just like you guys. I grew up in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, about 5 miles from the stadium. I know for me, I had a good family. I didn't have, like I said, addiction in my family. I had pretty supportive parents. And one thing I like to mention too is, I'm just talking about family. Like I said, getting clean and staying clean is the hardest thing I ever did. If you have someone in your family struggling, a parent, a friend, it's not easy. I relapsed, and it's not acceptable to keep relapsing and screwing up. And I'd do good for 6 months, and then before you know it, I'd be back in jail. I'd be getting arrested again. I'd be back in the ICU. I'd be back in the emergency room. But it's not easy. My family just thought I didn't care about them. I didn't care about anybody. That's what my friends thought, because I had shut everyone else. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed, and I just wanted to be all left alone. And it's not easy. So if you know someone struggling, a parent, a friend, a cousin, you can have harsh words for them. Sometimes that works. I had a young lady, Ashley, and every time she blew up on me, now she was living with me, she was only like a teenager. She was my girlfriend's daughter, but every time she blew up on me and said the worst thing, she used to say, I just hope you, can't say it, up and die. It was always a reality slap. I always knew that things are getting really bad. And I'll talk about those two young ladies a little bit later. One of them might be moving back in. No, I'm kidding. It's a long story. But like I said, I had supportive family, and I grew up in a good town, and for me, sports was my way to deal with anxiety, to deal with life. Like I said, I had good parents. My father was my idol. I didn't look up to movies, whatever people look up to, music star, whatever it is. He was my hero. I wanted to be my father, and like I wanted to make him proud, and that's what pushed me, but I became my father. My father wasn't a drug addict, but I became his personality, and that's good and bad. You know, my father's a real hard worker. He's 72, he can still outwork me any day of the week, you know, but he never communicated anything with me. We never, still to this day, like he's the guy I look up to. Like you put us together in a room, there's no conversation. We don't know how to, like, say anything nice. Like, and it's bad because that's how I grew up, and I just mentioned that because until I was 38 years old, I never once told anybody what was going on in my head. Any problem I had, I didn't have anywhere to go with it. You know, I hugged my father at my wedding because I hugged my stepfather because he's a hug. Their whole family, they call themselves huggers. That's all they do, they hug. And so I had to hug my father, you know, but I became just like him, you know, and which is good. It was good and bad. You know, but like I said, I was 38 years old before I reached out for help from anybody in this world. And I was going to go somewhere with that, but I forgot, which is kind of the usual. But yeah, like I said, I had a good family, and sports was my way to deal with it. And that was my release. And whatever it is, I don't know, everyone's got their way of dealing with life or whatever you're into, you know, music, or it doesn't matter. For me, it was sports, and I was always up to why. Every sport you could play. I grew up in a great neighborhood. My brother's 3 years older, so between his age and my age, there was about 20, 25 kids. So it was a never-ending amount of things to do. You know, so I was always busy. And I got up to high school, and I was captain of the football, basketball, track team, and life was going good. And I drank in high school. I didn't drink all the time, but I can look back, and one of the warning signs for me was, I didn't notice this until years later. Like when I put alcohol in my system, I like it way too much, even back then. I only drank once a month, once every 2 months in high school. I don't know if that's, I should say only, because I was always doing something, but I always blacked out. I never knew how to, I never had a shut off, but I always had a schedule. That's why I didn't go out every night. I had friends that went out Friday and Saturday night, every weekend, but I had stuff in the morning, you know, and being responsible was a pretty big thing to me. You know, I was the captain of 3 sports, but I always blacked out. But I never thought that anything about that because I didn't do it again for another month. I was getting recruited, obviously, most for football. I like basketball better, but not tall enough to really do anything with it. I'm tall, but not to get a scholarship. I could have pretty much gone anywhere I wanted. I narrowed it down to Boston College in Michigan, but Boston College was awful at the time. They're getting a little bit better now, and then, you know, things are in turmoil up there. But Tom Coughlin, who was just with the Giants, had taken the job coaching BC, but he was with the Giants in 1990. I remember he was recruiting me, and my whole family wanted me to go there. My father grew up 5 miles, actually like a mile from Boston College. Some of his family had gone there. His father had taught there, so they all wanted me to go there, but I didn't want to go there. And I remember I watched the 1990 Super Bowl as the Giants versus the Bills, and I watched on the living room couch. I got a phone call. I answered it, and it was Tom Coughlin because he was still with the Giants until after the season, before he started at BC, and he called me from the locker room of the Super Bowl. Here I am, a high school kid, and I remember getting on the phone. Then he put Lawrence Taylor on the phone. I had just watched Lawrence Taylor on the TV, and he was like the man in the NFL back then. And Lawrence Taylor's like, "You're gonna go to Boston College?" And I said, "Yep." That's how I made my decision. I remember I walked back in the other room, and my parents didn't believe me, but you know, it's one of the best decisions I ever made. Michigan was too big of a school, but you know, I went to Boston College, and I can't reiterate enough my whole life, whether it's gone good or bad, has been a direct result of the people I surround myself with, and I can't, like I didn't know it until my life went good. You know, in high school it was good, and then college was good, and NFL it started good, and then if I look at the people that were around me, that's how my life went. You know, be careful who you surround yourself with. When I was using and abusing drugs, I didn't have bad people around me. I will never in a million years say a drug addict's a bad person. You know, you put a drug in certain people, and the addiction takes over, and they do bad things. But I won't say they're bad people. I won't say I was surrounded with bad people, but we were just making really bad choices. And I've always had people around me that held me accountable. You know, and for a period I didn't. You know, so just be careful who you surround. Because if you're like me, if someone's doing something, I'll do. If they ask me to do it, I just do things. Like, I'm very good at directions, even if it's a bad direction. You know, if I'm with friends and they're like, I don't know, go break that window, and I'm like, okay, you know, maybe I'm gullible. You know, like I do stuff with my wife. I argue with her a little bit, but then I do it. You know, it's like she's realistic. She's always like, I need sign. Can you go put up a sign? It's like 7:38 at night. And I'm like, no, I'm not putting the sign. I hang up. I go put up the sign. I feel like I'm standing up for myself. Yeah, obviously not. But I've always had those people around me, even in high school. You know, I did some dumb things in high school, like we all do, but you know, luckily I didn't get in trouble for it. But I tended to keep people around me that would help tell me when I was doing something dumb. You need some of those friends. And I got to college and I had my choice. You know, college football, it's kind of a mix. The kids that go to class. I mean, at BC everyone had to, but in the guys that went out every night and the guys that didn't. And I stuck with the same four roommates I was there for 5 years because my first year I didn't play. I graduated in 3.5 years. You know, I graduated in 3.5 years. I got into master's school, graduate school for education. I got 3/4 of the way through my master's in 1.5 years because I took classes all summer. I mean, life was going good, you know, and all my roommates graduated. All my roommates had a master's degree. The other guys graduated. It was just a little longer road, you know. They were on the 6-year plan, but I had, like I said, good people around me. I didn't party in college. My college career, I was pretty driven, and I had a really hard coach, and I didn't ever want to go out and have to go into 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning workouts hungover, and because I saw those guys, and I saw that they used to put throw-up buckets everywhere, and you knew the guys that were, he was out all night last night, and Coughlin screaming at him, and I didn't want to be that. And so kind of what happened to me at college to Patriots was Bill Parcells was with the Patriots, and he was friends with Tom Coughlin because they coached together with the Giants, and Parcells used to come up to Boston College practices because it was right down the road, and I kind of got to know him, and I wasn't the best athlete in the world, and I never have been. If you look at me, I'm 265 right now, but I played at like 270. And I was always smaller, I was never fast, but what I did do, and it's probably the most thing I'm proud of in sports. I'm proud of being in Super Bowls and all that, but I worked as hard as I could every day of my life in practice. And that wasn't easy, but that's what I had to do. If I didn't do that every day, I wouldn't have made it, I wouldn't got a scholarship, and I wouldn't get to the NFL, because I didn't have the talent. Like, I had to have a coach say that you're gonna get the same kid every single day. Every day. That was what every coach said about him. He never changes. He shows up and goes as hard as he can. Even on game day, I might have the greatest game, but they knew who was gonna show up. And the Patriots drafted me in the 4th round in 1996. And I wouldn't say it was a dream come true, because I didn't think about playing in the NFL. Like I said, I've always had kind of low self-esteem. Like, I've never thought I was good at anything. Like, I've never had a good practice. I never thought I had a good game because I focused on the 3 or 4 things I did wrong. And, you know, when I got drafted in 5 miles from my house, I was playing football, and I was like the little local kid done good. And once again, I was still a mess inside, and everyone's like, you are so lucky. And life was good as it could be for me. And my first year in the NFL, we played in the Super Bowl, and once again, I got on the Patriots, and I got one of those accountability friends. That's what we say in meetings. They call them accountability buddies. Buddies, people that will look out for you. And you know, Teddy Bruschi was drafted 3rd round, I was 4th round, and I was local. And I mentioned Teddy because I was in New England. I went out to Pittsburgh. He actually rented my house for a while. I came back to New England, and I started going down the wrong path. And I remember one day he said something to me, like he was looking out for me. You know, you got that person, almost like a parent. Like, what are you doing? You're being an idiot. And I remember I got all offended. Like, you're gonna tell me, like, you know, how to live my life? And I stopped talking to him. Like, we'd be in a room like 5 feet apart, and I wouldn't say a word to him. And I think there was a picture up there. Kind of choking my little cousin a little bit. But I always had those people. That's why I put them up there. It's not, and that's the only reason. So I was with the Patriots for 3 years, and then when Bill Belichick came in, they wanted me to re-sign on the team, but for minimum, and then, or a lower pay, and then they were going to take care of me the following year. Pittsburgh gave me $5.5 million for 3 years. That's still a lot of money, but back then it was a real lot, especially for me. You know, I didn't think I deserved $5.5 million. I remember thinking, they're crazy paying me this. You know, because like I said, I didn't think I was that good. And I always say it's the worst decision I ever made. You know, you take this insecure kid that never feels like he fits in the crowd. I struggle to make friends. I still struggle to make friends. I'm a work in progress, ask my wife. Like, I've had the best friends, like Randy Spencer, he's an attorney now. Every time I got in trouble, he would tell me what I did. He knew before me. He'd show up at my house, or just show up at the courthouse. But he's been there through everything, and I'm an awful friend. Like, I have, it sounds weird, intimacy issues. I feel like if I talk to him twice in a week, I can't talk to him for like 2 months. I feel like we're dating. And I have to work on it. Like, her work partner, his husband, he's the nicest guy in the world, Greg. And I just got a new Harley, not new, but a used one, and he can fix things up. But he texted me the other day, and he goes, I know this is forbidden, because he knows not to especially text me, because that's even, my heart's actually racing. So I had seen him 2 days before, and then he texted me, so I texted him back, and I was like, now that we're dating. So I'm trying. Like, normally I would have gone to Kathy and said, never, that's it. Not talk to him again. Now I've gone out with that kid Randy like twice in the past 2 weeks, so. I'm a little different. Like, I am so socially inept. Like, I'm socially awkward. That's what it is. I struggle out in public. And I struggle to meet people. I struggle to hold relationships. It's not because I don't like people, and I think people might take it that way. I just get all weirded out in my head. It's like a real personal relationship. And I went out, that's what I mentioned there, I went out to Pittsburgh. And I was trying to fit in, and I had to find a crowd to fit in, kind of like you do in high school. And 3/4 of the team was married. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be sitting over his house with his kids running around. So I went to the guys that went out, and I started to go out. And first day of camp, I blew up my back. Here I am, it was my 4th year in the NFL, it was the first practice I missed in my life. in football. And listen, I've broken this wrist 3 times, the hand 3 times, I got pins in it, shoulder, knee, Achilles surgery, concussions. I never missed a practice. You know, I would finish the practice and get a cast on and go back to practice. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And it was the first time in my life I had a coach really come down on me. And here I am, I'm out in Pittsburgh, I don't know anybody, and what I felt was the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I don't have anybody to tell, because I think weak people, like I think everyone feels like me, I think weak people ask for help, which is the total opposite. It takes such a stronger person to reach out for help than it does just to keep it in. But I mentioned that because I self-medicated. You know, you have a stressful day and you just want to get out of your head, and rather than reaching out or anything, calling a parent, calling a friend, counsel, or confronting a coach, I'd have a couple drinks every night. Every night, that's what I look forward to. Just get back to the house. I can forget about the day for like 20 minutes. It's the worst thing in the world to do. It's so unhealthy. You don't learn how to deal with anything. And I started to drink more than I ever had in my life. And that off season came, and the season went really bad. And I had an issue with one of the coaches. It was the first coach, like I said, that had a problem with me. And I didn't look forward to going into the Steelers Stadium every day. And that off season, like I said, I started to drink more and more. And the scary part with drinking, especially drugs, is it affects everyone different. You know, you take a little insecure kid, and it would temporarily make me feel a little more secure, like I fit in, even though it really wasn't, but, you know, in my head. But then the stuff wears off, and there I am, same person, usually worse off. And that off season, I had bought my first Harley, and had no helmet, and shorts on, a t-shirt, and I went over the handlebars and landed on my head. And I got knocked out, but I broke my wrist at that time. And I didn't go to the hospital because I had camp in a month. And I didn't want the Steelers to find out. So I let it heal crooked, and I still lifted. And I remember it was agony, and then I went to camp, and I felt it re-break the second day of camp. The year before, I got injured on the second day of camp. And, or I think it was the first day, and I was like, I can't tell them. So I went through 10 days of doubles, lifting weights, and finally I told them. Sure enough, I had an MRI and surgery, and they cut me, and they deserved to cut me. And it's the first time I had ever been cut from anything. And I came back to Massachusetts, and I was really down. You know, I shouldn't have been. I had money now. You know, I could still turn my career around. You know, I was still going to play in the NFL if I wanted to. It's like my life wasn't bad. You know, but sometimes we get stuck in that pity pot, you know, where, especially me, where I feel bad for myself for no reason. And, but I mentioned this time because I started getting in with the new crowd. I started going to the local bars. I started going into like Central Falls and Pawtucket bars, and it was just a different crowd. And started to make new friends. Stopped talking to all the, like my family and my other friends. And started drinking every night. It was around this time that I started purchasing pain pills. You know, I didn't think anything of it. You know, that's what everyone else was doing. You know, it seemed harmless. It seemed like, you know, they looked like aspirin. Didn't seem like it would do anything to me. You know, I didn't know that would or could lead to heroin. Like I didn't ever put those two together. And so I started buying pills. I started drinking every night. And I didn't think it was an issue. And I was always someone that worked out twice a day, whether it was run in the morning and lift in the afternoon, or it didn't matter. I started going to the gym for like a half hour a day. You know, I was at home. The Steelers had given me $800,000 injury settlement for 8 weeks, so I was getting $100,000 a week to sit at home. So I was like, this is great. You know? And I started buying pills and not training, but teams were in contact. And the crazy part, Pittsburgh would call me once a week and go, any injuries, you're coming back. You know, Philadelphia was calling me and the Patriots were calling me. And they're all saying, if someone gets hurt on the D-line, we're going to bring you in. And I'm out there rather than getting in shape. like to make a comeback, I'm like just getting by. And I'm buying pills, I'm taking, but I'm thinking, I didn't think it would affect my workouts and stuff. And sure enough, the Patriots called. I was in North Attleboro at a liquor store. It was October. And they said, can you come in at 6 in the morning tomorrow? And I was like, sure. And for a workout. And at the time, thinking it was a good decision, I went in and got the smaller bottle. I still drank it. I went in the next day for a workout, and I got back on the team. And 2 months later, the Super Bowl. And the crazy part is, I didn't notice the progression. You hear about the progression of the disease, you know, because mine started out really harmless in my head. Once a week, I'd watch a movie, and I'd take a couple Percocets and relax and watch the movie. And then it went to a few more, and eventually Oxycontin. But I didn't see the progression happening. And I look back and it's insanity, because within 3 months, when I went down to the Super Bowl and the Patriots team played, I took 300 Percocets with me for like the 5 days we were gonna be down there, 6 days. Like I needed like a crazy surplus. You know, I started with one, I was already up to taking 20 a day. And I didn't think it was an issue because people in the NFL aren't drug addicts. Those are for weak people, homeless people. That's what I thought. Like I didn't ever say I could become one. And I never saw when it was going on what was really happening. But I remember being at the Super Bowl and it was supposed to be like one of the highlights of my life. And my parents were at the team party and they have all the rap stars there and the movie people, and you're supposed to just take in what's going on. You know what I mean? Just sit back and watch and enjoy it. And I immediately got to the thing, and my mind was already like all the pills are in the room. So I got back to the team party. I was there for about 15 minutes. I left my family there. I went up to my room and I remember sitting in my room at 2 in the morning, taking pills and drinking, and I had no happiness in me, nothing. You know, it was taking everything from me. I didn't see it. And I didn't see that I could possibly start having an issue. And kind of what happened is the partying continued. And that off season, I was going out every night and still taking pills. And the night we got the ring, I remember once again, I thought I was having a blast. Thought I was having fun, I thought I was enjoying myself. I was out with the team, we were in Boston, everyone was dressed up, we was getting treated like kings, and I was obviously drinking, I was obviously taking pills, and I left Boston, and I ended up in Lexington, Massachusetts. And I got arrested. I got arrested with OUI, and I spent the night in jail. I'm all dressed up in my suit, you know, with my Super Bowl ring. It's supposed to be another high point of my life, just trashed. You know, and I had another guy with me, and the crazy part, I can remember I got in an accident, and I didn't care. Like two wheels came off my tire. Like I was down on 2 rims, I was on 128, and I had another guy on the team in the car screaming at me. This is what type of person it turns me into, like I don't care. Flames, I mean, what do you call them? It was actually flames coming from the tires. There was so much like fire and pieces of tire, and I went like 15 miles on them. And I didn't care. I was like, I'm not getting off 128. I'm not gonna pull over here because I'm gonna get arrested. And just insanity. And I remember about a week later, actually it was about 3 days the Patriots called. They said it's gonna get in the paper. Listen, I wasn't a big superstar by any means, but they told me I had to call Bill Belichick on Nantucket and tell him it was going to get in the paper. And I can remember sitting there and I thought if I drank more, I'd get the courage to call him. And I did call him that night. And I sat on my counter and I could still picture the lighting, I could still picture my counter, I could picture everything. And I had a chance to turn my life around. You know, you're gonna screw up and you're gonna come to some point in your life where you can either face it and just deal with it and get through it, or you can do what I did. And I took the easy way out. You know, I could've got help for the pills, but I would have never admitted to anybody at that time that I had an issue. You know, I could've got help for the drinking, I could've overcome what I did, and I could've played another 4 or 5 years in the NFL. I know I could've. But no, I sat at my counter and I decided to give up football and drink and do drugs. That's where the pills had me thinking, that's where the Oxycontin had me thinking, and that's what the booze had me thinking was a better option. And it's crazy to think, you know. And what happened with me is that one little pill that I used to sit down and watch a movie, you know, it was like Wednesday night, I'd just be like, oh, I can't wait to take a couple Percocets and watch a movie, this will be fun. And that led to eventually a $30,000 a month habit. You know, I had the money. You know, I went from 1 pill to 2 pills to the Oxycontin to I used to do 8 grams of heroin a day. And that's without drinking. I used to take Xanax, I used to take muscle relaxers. I went from being in a Super Bowl and being driven and having all these goals to having 0 aspirations in life. I used to not shower for weeks. I didn't eat. I ended up getting down to about 160 pounds, so 6'5", like 155, 160. My life spiraled out of control so quick, and it all started with that one little Percocet. I went to 15 rehabs. I was sectioned to Bridgewater. I was in full of psychiatric ward a couple times, full of hospital in Attleboro. Totaled 5 cars, but charged with 5 OUIs. It's crazy how fast this stuff happened too. I made $6 million in the NFL. I lost all $6 million in 6 years from drugs and alcohol. You know, I went from this like local kid that had done right, like I had a wall at Applebee's, and like you know, hundreds and hundreds of articles written in the paper because I was a good kid. You know what I mean? I was a really good kid. I was honest, respectful, on time. I've never been late to anything in my life. I respected teachers, I respected coaches, because I knew I never got to where I got in the NFL without those people. You know, I learned never to talk back to people. I just turned into a total animal that didn't care about anything. Anything. Oh yeah, that's my mug. That mug shot, right? My face is all swollen. I'm only 160 pounds, but in 2005, my brother had come over my house. And I was so bad, I couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat. All my hair had fallen out. My eyes were orange because my liver was shutting down. I didn't know that was bad at the time, you know, which is crazy. And he got me into Boston somehow, and I was in ICU for 2 weeks, and they kept telling my family, we don't know if he's good. Because what happens is I was so dehydrated for so many years, your organs start failing, they shut down one at a time. And I was in the ICU for I think 10 days. And I got out of it, and I made it through. And my parents they told my parents 3 or 4 times they didn't think I'd make it. And I got out, and then I went into a facility. And this is the scary part. I went into a facility, I was in there for a month. The day I got out, I went back to my house in North Attleboro. I had 2 young girls living with me at the time, and their mother. I took one of the girls to the movies. You'll see the blonde girl, Alexis, in the pictures eventually. I took her to the movies. I went straight to the projects in Providence. I got 14 grams of heroin, 15 Percocets, some Xanax, and I was drunk, and I got arrested in Attleboro, Massachusetts the day I got out. You know, it's hard for me to describe, like to my wife, addiction, unless you're caught in it. That's all you think about. You know, that's all I think about. That's all I thought about for 35 days. I still didn't believe I was an addict. I thought I just had a rough few years. The day I got out, so that little girl got left at the movies. And like I said, it was chaos. And I could go through the whole horror stories, and I'll tell you another story. Like, my wife knows me now. She knows I'm not this type of person, but at one point I was supposed to get my license back. I lost my license for a year. I lost my everything. And I was supposed to get my Jeep back on the road on a Monday. And it was Saturday, and I was still drinking. And when you're drinking, sometimes like I was like, I'm hungry, right? And I want Chinese food, right? And I'm gonna drive to get it, rather than have it delivered. Like, it's like, really? Like, I didn't even notice that till I told you that. I could have the food delivered. But I remember Alexis was standing on the stairs, and she was 10 years old at the time. And I remember saying to her, I had no license plates or nothing. And I said, Alexis, I'm going to get Chinese food. You want to come? She's like, you're drunk. I'm not getting in a car. At 10 years old, I can still remember her standing up there. And I said, whatever, I'm going to go get Chinese food. And sure enough, I went and got Chinese food. On the way back, a guy my brother went to high school with, but I'm friends with, is the assistant principal in North Attleboro. Not anymore, I don't think. He lived near me. And on the way back, I don't know what happened. I flipped my Jeep 3 times, and it ended up on his front steps. And the craziest thing, I am like Mr. Goody Two-Shoes. This is what my friend Randy, who's my lawyer, that told me what I did after. I got out of the car, it's like something you see in a movie, and I picked up my bottle, and I went around and I picked up chicken fingers, and I went home. I walked home. And like it was not a care in the world. You know what I mean? That's what, I think back and I get sick to my stomach, but the reason I tell that story is because Alexis up there, the blonde, she wouldn't be here today, she'd be dead. You know, I wouldn't be here today, I'd still be in jail. And I can't say enough. It started with that little white pill. It seemed so harmless. And I was millionaire playing in the Super Bowl, doing everything right. And then I turned into that type of person. I turned into the person where both those girls, I had both of them in my car crying because of my driving, and I didn't care. I'd just be like, shut up, you know? Ashley, I was driving back from the Cape one time, she was hysterical. That's not me. You know, I'm not that type of person. You know, the thing is about the 2 girls too though, they're a big part of my recovery. You know, I can't, that's why I like to tell you guys, if you know someone struggling, if a friend's struggling, if you're struggling, they've been a huge part of my recovery. I met their mother right when I started using heroin. How much time do I have? I can't, I get like a time limit on talking. I'm gonna go home and curl up in a little ball like a 2-year-old and be sleeping. Because I get all driven with anxiety and then I crash. So I met their mother right when I started using. It was a very unhealthy, very, very unhealthy relationship. She's still struggling. I don't say bad things about her. You know, I went through all that money. She spent a lot of it too. It was just very unhealthy. But that's all they saw. They saw Chris using. They saw Chris getting arrested. They always were waiting for the cops to come to the house, Alexis and Ashley said. They were always waiting to say, oh, he died in a car accident. I was never there. I was in rehabs and jails for 3.5 out of the first 6 years they knew me. The funny thing is they watched the whole thing. And then when I finally got clean, or decided to get clean, I told their mother, I can't, you know? I couldn't do it anymore. And I knew I'd get my family back. I knew I'd get my friends back eventually, you know, whether it was in 5 years or whenever. But those kids didn't deserve to go through it because they were in the middle of it. They were in the house. They saw it all. They saw the struggles with their mother and me. You know, they basically parented themselves when they were in my house. And it's funny because Alexis is the blonde one. I knew it would be a little bit easier with her, but Ashley was like she's the one when she'd get mad. She's Portuguese. If you get Portuguese women in here, you're a little crazy. Like, she was quiet, and then scary. And I walked into Applebee's with my wife, and she was hosting. She started bawling. And it was probably the biggest weight off my shoulders I've ever had. And you don't realize the effect you can have on people. Like, I don't think they knew. Like, that was one of the biggest burdens I had in my life at the time. And now Ashley's back in my life. And then Alexis bounced around. She didn't have she's lived in like 16 different spots. She lived with me for like 8 years. And I got back in touch with her. And the crazy part is, she's not my biological kid, but she called my wife. She's smart. I don't answer the phone, obviously. I might call you back. And so Alexis moved in. She was actually up at her real father's house and wanted to get back local, and she had never met her real father and just decided to move right in with him when she was like 15, but she moved back in, and it's crazy to think, you know, and then she decided to get married. She's very obsessive. Like, once she decides she's having a house and kids, she's having a house and kids. It's a little scary. And it's funny because I gave her away. It was in my backyard. My wife did the wedding. But it's amazing because, like I said, they've had such a huge effect on my recovery. Like, if they never forgave me, which they had every right not to, and if they hadn't stuck by me, I think I'd still be clean. But I'd have a big empty spot, you know. And so, if you guys don't think you have an effect on people, like, you may not even know it, you know, but you do. You do, especially if someone's trying to get clean and turn their lives around. And, but kind of what happened is December 15, 2008. I wasn't in jail. Like, every time I got arrested, I thought it was rock bottom. You know, every time I was just someplace I didn't want to be, against my will. You know, it's funny, I thought I had so many rock bottoms. You know, like 3 years after I played in the Super Bowl, I was in a locked facility watching the Patriots play, and I was 165 pounds, and I could only watch the first quarter of the game, and I remember thinking, like, how did I get here? The following year, I was in a different facility, watching the same guys I played with and got drafted with, playing another Super Bowl, and here I am in another facility. And I kept thinking every time I hit rock bottom, or what I thought was rock bottom, I just, obviously, like you hear, I kept digging a new hole. And I didn't hit rock bottom. You know, I was just sitting in my house, and I had a nervous breakdown. I was in North Attleboro. I had lost my house. I still have my Jeep. But I was in a tiny apartment I couldn't pay for. I had no money. I had no heat. I was eating like cans of tuna, and I just had nothing. I had no money for anything. But I found enough money for booze, though, somehow. And like I said, I had been to 15 rehabs, and I had my dog. So that's a whole different story. I am a dog person. So that poor dog at the time didn't deserve what he got. But it wasn't anything spectacular. I had a nervous breakdown, and I was sitting there, and I was shaking, and I tried to actually break into the church next door. I needed something, you know, and for me, I just needed to pray. I needed help with something. And I remember I got back to my couch, and I was crying. I was actually hysterically crying. Like, it got to that point. And that's where drug addiction takes people. Like, it had got me to the point where I was all alone. There was no one. My family, my mother a day before, my mother loves me. My mother had come into my house, and my sponsor, her friend, this was right before I got clean, was trying to help me. He came by every day, 3 times a day. He was petrified. He thought I was going to die. My mother was standing over my bed when he came over, telling me to die. She was like, God, please take him now. You know? Still hits me. I go back to that time. Like, I don't wish it on anybody. You know? And if you know someone going through it, it's awful. But that's not my mother. You know? And the following day, she must have got through to me a little bit, because following day, like I said, I had that breakdown, and I reached out to her friend, Steve, and it was the first time I had reached out for help, and someone was willing to help me. Like, I was shocked. Like, I can't say enough. If you're struggling with something, reach out to someone, talk to someone. You know, I see it too much in meetings, and I know you guys know it too. So it's not like, at least there's more stuff out there about it now. Because I go to meetings every week. High school kids, you know, just coming in because of court, because they've been arrested, because they've been expelled from school. You know, it doesn't matter, and their lives are upside down. You know, their lives are upside down, but they still have time to turn it around. And I got involved, and I got in with a good group of friends again, people that would look out for me. And ever since I've surrounded myself with the right people, and I still screw up and I still do wrong things, but if you do the next right things, the next right things happen for you. And that's kind of what's happened to me. And obviously I got married, and we keep buying dogs. Kind of what happened was, so I was sober, well, how many years was it? Like 4. She's like, I'm gonna get you a dog for being sober. Like, okay, great. Because my dog had just died. The bulldog that went through all that torture. And, so she bought me a bulldog, Rocky, and that was great. And the following year, this was awful. I love dogs. She brought home another dog. Like, I didn't even see it. I ruined the whole moment. Like, she went to walk in, I said, no, 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 and I ran out of the house. And everyone was waiting to see me get off. She bought like a little Pouchon. It's a poodle Bichon. So then, this year, about 6 months ago, she bought 2 more bulldogs. Now we got 3 bulldogs and a Pouchon. And then 2 weeks ago, she tried to bring home a 5th bulldog that needed a home. And that one had to go. You know what's funny with dogs? It's like I can relate to dogs. Like, they don't. Not saying anything, like they don't say anything. They're always happy. Like my other dog just ripped his claw off the other day. It doesn't matter. Like, he's bleeding. It's hanging out by the root. And you walk in the house and he just wants to give you. I'm like, that's insane. He wants to just give you a kiss. But my life has gotten so much better just because I reached out for help. You know what's crazy? I'm happy I went through what I went through. I'm soaked, by the way, with sweat. I have such anxiety. If you're in this room and you know what I'm talking about, get help for it. Because I waited, like I realize now, I know how to deal with it. Like anxiety, I've had to kind of put it like my addiction. Like it's always gonna be there. Like, it just doesn't go away whether you take care of it, you know? I've just learned how to deal with it, you know, whether it's through the gym, eating healthy. And I realize that when I come here and talk, I'm not gonna die. I used to believe that. You know, I actually believed I was gonna die. Like, for years I didn't go to the dentist. And this is another reason not to do pills, or drink excessively. My wife, like when she thinks she should get something done, you just do it. So I had gone to the doctor some years, and I was having abscessed teeth because I had the teeth rot out. But I wouldn't go to the dentist because I was scared. I thought like the worst thing in the world was going to happen. And my face would be out like this, and she'd be like, she'd make a dentist appointment, and I'd skip it. She'd make another one and skip it. So finally, she said, "You cannot ever complain in this house again about your teeth." So my face would be like this. I'd be almost in tears, and I couldn't say. She'd be like, "How's your dad?" Like, "It's good." Like I couldn't tell if it was wrong. So finally, one day I looked at her and I said, "Make the appointment." So she sets up the doctor's appointment. I go into the doctor's, and this is a direct result of booze and drugs. I got to pull 9 teeth. My wife, 4 wisdom teeth are impacted, plus 5 other teeth. These are already fake teeth because of a car accident. 2 from football and 2 from a tree. But she made me do it all at once. And like, I don't argue. Like I said, if you tell me to do it, I just do it. And So I got 9 teeth pulled at once, 4 impacted wisdom teeth and 5 other teeth like a year ago, and it was awful.
We got it done.
Yeah. But, I don't know where I was going with that, but guys, really, just be careful, and you guys know that. You guys are going into college, and you know, you're gonna screw up, obviously. Like I said, you're gonna have fun in college. You know, but be careful because things change so quick. So my first 30 years, my mother had scrapbook after scrapbook after scrapbook of all the good things I did that were in the paper. Then I got busted with heroin. And all of a sudden I was labeled. Forget the 30 years of hard work. Forget the family name my father's had his whole life. I trashed it. And the scary part is it's because I was addicted to something. But that's how society works. You know, you get in the paper and then, you know, that's what people think of you. And that's sad. It's sad, but, you know, you gotta watch out because you don't know how it's gonna affect you. Like I know if my wife takes a pain pill, she hates it. She hates it. You know, she doesn't feel right. For some reason, if I take something, I know if I took a pill right now, I could just kiss my wife goodbye. I could kiss my dogs goodbye. I could kiss my family goodbye. I could kiss my house goodbye, my marriage goodbye. I know it. I know in my head. If I pick up a drink or a pill tomorrow, I'm gone. I'm gone. And the scary part is, I got a friend in meetings. 19 years. 19 years clean. You know, he's been clean since, what is that, 97, 90, whatever it is. Some reason, decided to take a couple Percocets. Within 3 weeks, he was back in rehab. 19 years clean. That's what scares me. You know, it scares me when young kids come in. Young kids come in and die all the time. It's not like they're just coming in to get fixed up. Like kids go back out, you never think you put a needle in your arm, and it's so sad they die. And they just forgot about it. You know what I mean? So, should I open it to questions, or how much time have we got? 20, I don't know.
I'm just saying, that's how much time before they
Sure.
dismissed.
Yeah.
I only talked about long, 40 minutes.
And then you can keep like an hour.
That's my limit. I can't do another 20 minutes. You can come up and hug my wife, she loves hugging people. No, if anybody had any questions or...
Yeah, I can tell about Josh. Remember when I first started speaking, Josh, junior in high school?
Yeah, Josh he was a lot like you guys. He was a kid from North Attleboro. His father's got 29 years clean. His kid had never seen him. Josh had never seen his father use. He didn't grow up around drugs. My sponsors, like basically, Josh grew up around, and Josh got caught up, just seemed harmless at first, and got caught up in drugs, and then what happened was he eventually got expelled from school, and he got put in facilities, and his life was trashed. Like he got kicked out of North Attleboro High School. He ended up having to go away for 6 months, and you'd never think, like if you saw him now, you'd be like, that must have taken a lot of work. But his life is unbelievable. I mean, yeah, he screwed up, he had a record. Kind of what he did is he got back in meetings, he started working on stuff, got his life kind of turned back around, ended up becoming, now, how old is he now? He's a paramedic.
Yeah,
Now he's on like the local, he's right down the street, Bellingham Fire Department.
He was a year younger than Taylor, so he's going to be 23 now. 24. Yeah, but he's been sober 7 years. And you know what's funny? Like, you guys think, you know, you're high school kids, how could you possibly need to get sober? And it's amazing. Who did we meet the other day? There was a girl who was like, oh, Abby. This is a good story. Gabby actually was from New York. We went to go speak in New York. And she's a softball kid. She had the hair up in her head, you know, the ones that I love, and the boxers and the sweatpants, and I love this girl. And she came down, we were talking, and after we spoke, she came down to talk to us. She was like, you know what, your daughter's very similar to me. I play softball, I'm drinking a lot. My mom's 8 years sober, you know, I know better, I shouldn't be doing this. And I'm like, you know what, you just gotta make some good choices. I'm glad you came in today. She brought her mom that night, and I was like, so, we were chatting, and she ended up, I gave her some bracelets and stuff. And a couple months later, she ended up saying, you know, hey, you know, I haven't drank or done drugs for a month, and I haven't done it this long. And the other day on Facebook, she actually had 9 months clean, and Chris saw it. So he's like, hey, Gammy's 9 months clean. And I ended up, I'm a singer, I'm not a singer, let's put it that way, but on Facebook you'd think I should never be on a mountain, I'm horrible. But I sang to Gabby, and it's funny because she was like, you know what, it was because you came to my school that day that you made me realize what I was doing. She said, I never knew my life could be this easy clean. You know, she goes, I've got a newfound feeling of what I'm gonna be doing. She's gonna go to college, like she's just got all this stuff together because she realized she had a problem. And you always think, I'm a kid, how could I have a problem? But you'd be shocked at how many kids he has in his meeting, stunned. You know, but I always say if you don't do it to begin with, then you're not gonna have a problem. So, you know, it's amazing to be able to see the kids. It is amazing. You know, we had one girl, we went to Maine. Oh my God. We drove 7.5 hours. Did you know 7.5 hours you can get to Maine? It's like right near Canada. We always had, it was winter, it was freezing. We drive all the way up there and we're like, what are we doing going to the school? We got to the school, we talked, we drove home, and we stopped at a diner. And when we got to the diner, I was reading an email, and it was this girl. She was like 17 years old. She had emailed us and said, you know what? 6 months ago, my mother and my best friend died by heroin overdose. And I was with them, and I couldn't take it anymore. And this afternoon, I had already made plans to meet my drug dealer, and I was going to meet him after school today. And then you guys came in, and she said, I realized I can't do that. And it was like amazing. And I said to myself, you know what, the irony that we would have driven that 7.5 hours, and I'm like, well, there's our reason. And like, you think, how could kids even be surrounded by that? But they are, and you'd be shocked at how many people it affects. You just gotta make good choices. You know, Logan, did I tell you guys the Logan story when I was here about him smoking pot? Yeah, like seriously, like, you guys remember that? Like, Logan this year is graduating from high school. It's only because of, hey guys, I parent differently, I do everything different. He lives in our house now, and we have a different house. But it's because he had his sister to rely on. You know, you guys are faced with tough choices every day. It's not easy. I don't know how you guys do it. It's not. But you gotta do it.
So I should meet Chip.
Yeah, his Chip. He always says his Chip in his hand.
Yeah, I keep this with me pretty much all times. It's my 7th year. I always tell people, like, I'll give that ring away in a second. Usually someone says, I'll take it, but if I don't keep this, I don't have anything, you know. And,
Tell them when you got your 5-year trip with the girls.
oh yeah, I only go to men's meetings just because women have different issues. But yeah, it's just, I mean, yeah. A lot of people go to the mixed meetings, but I go to these, I kind of get put into these men's meetings, you know, by my sponsor, and you get the whole crowd, you get the bikers, I mean, there's fights in there, there's screaming, there's crying, and you know, I always feel bad. My wife needs a place like that. Like, she just likes being around people. But it's like a therapy session every week, but it's all, so it's like, say, 75, 80 guys, this one meeting. It's my Wednesday night meeting. It's called Some Are Sicker Than Others. And all these guys get together, and every night, you know, you get these big, tough guys that look like they got it all going on. They're in construction and ride Harleys, and, you know, some are gangsters from Revere, and they're crying in a meeting. And so it's unbelievable, it's crazy. And, but it's the most honest people you'll ever meet. But So Ashley and Alexis gave me my 5-year chip, and
They let the women in for the anniversaries.
now there's only been that and you, and there was a couple people there last night. But they came in. It's funny because Ashley and Alexis got up and gave me my chip. You know, and they gave me a pink 5-year chip, so I wouldn't forget it. But they had every guy in there crying. But the most amazing thing was the following year. So this was last year. I had 3 guys come up to me, and they talked about, they remembered the 2 girls from last year. And I remember telling Ashley and Alex what the guy said was, those 2 girls gave me hope that I could get my kids back, you know, because a lot of people, we screw up bad enough sometimes, people, that you don't think it's fixable, you know, and sometimes I'll just tell you in meetings, people might not get their kids back, you know, but those 2 young girls, Ashley and Alexis, came into this meeting and gave at least 3 guys hope to keep doing the right thing, that they can get their life back in order and get their kids back in order. So that was, yeah, you were there too, were you crying?
I always cry.
Every morning she watches Ellen.
But then again, so did you today, so I love it! How about when you spoke to Alexis' school? So he spoke at Alexis' school, and Alexis is the blonde chick we always refer to her, and she went to this like fancy academy, and it went, okay?
Private.
So we were in like this theater, and like it was gorgeous. And he was talking, you know, about how much Alexis meant to him, and you know,
So
how
this is
her
like
recovery.
the 4th time it choked up my life,
Yeah.
so
So this is the 4th time.
I'm not gonna
it's
hear
been
you.
choked up,
Isn't that sad? I'm gonna
Yeah.
ride home, she's gonna go,
so. No, I love it. No, I
yeah, everyone thinks she's nice. That's what I heard last time.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's
Really?
really
I open
fun. I love it. I love it. I love it. But at that school, he was talking about Alexis and how important she was, and like how much her forgiveness meant. And he was crying, I was crying, she was crying, we were all crying. And it's just wonderful. You know what's funny? I like, sometimes I'll save them in between some things because, you know, not emotional like that, but I thought to myself, you know what, this is beautiful, this is just gonna happen. So, good job. You know, it means you love your mother that much, so that's fabulous. She's gonna like the video. Oh.
My mother's,
He just went, oh my God, the video.
my mother's a handful.
She's adorable. But, you know, just be yourself, guys. Be true to yourself. Talk to each other. Just be good friends and have those people that make you accountable. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
Got any questions? Anyone?
Do it.
Yes. We live in Plainville, so only
I've never had any sort of I can't even fake enthusiasm. I honestly, my whole like if I made a tackle or a sack, even if it was on national TV, like I used to tell guys, don't touch me. Like I just wanted to give I had any sort of enthusiasm. It's sad. Like I never enjoyed things. I never allowed myself to enjoy things because I've always had so much of anxiety and depression, and I've always fought so many things that I didn't take care of that I've suffered for so long. You know, I'm a lot better now.
but he sees you and he loves it because he's like, I just want a piece of
Well,
that.
even I used to play with I used to play with guys like that. I'm like, that looks enjoyable. Like I would make a tackle, and the crowd would go nuts, and guys would try to congratulate me. I'd say, don't touch me. No, I can't. I can't, see? My arms wouldn't go up. I do it in my head. That's what, you know the scary part about me is? I'm a work in progress, like I said. I don't know how to say nice things to people because my parents love me. Especially my father, but we don't tell how we feel. So this is true, I'll be driving with my wife, and I would say, remember when we were in the car yesterday? She'd be like, yeah. I'm like, I was thinking nice things about you. Like, I can't say, wow, you look pretty. Like, how easy is that? But it won't come out of my mouth. So I'll look at it and I'll think, well, not today. A lot of times I'd be like, she's really nice. Like, I'm lucky. Like, I do love her. But I don't say it. I tell her the next day I was thinking it the day before yesterday.
He literally will go, remember that dress you had on yesterday? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, it looked good on you. I'm like, oh, thank you.